My name is Kelly Russo. My pronouns are she, her. I am currently based in Brooklyn. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I spent about 8 years in Nashville, Tennessee before moving to Brooklyn. I had a lot of friends who were just artists that were having a really hard time navigating touring, playing shows, how to build their careers, and I was surrounded by people that were constantly trying for it and didn't have any support. I sort of found my passion in tour management and wanting to be there for the people that are working so hard to create this music for us. And you give so much of yourself as an artist that you deserve all the support in the world, and I found real purpose being a tour manager. I interned at Exit In and Marathon Music Works in Nashville, and then I started working box office and doing some marketing stuff and sort of got involved in all aspects of those two venues. And I just met a lot of tour managers, and I would give them all my little I'm a student business card, and I'd be I was just really hungry for it. I think there's a whole thing about tour managers or people in music that they're I don't know, I just fell into it, man. And I definitely didn't do that. I was I want to do this. I know I need to do this. I know this is what I want to do. And so I was just network the shit out of myself, being hey, if you know anybody who needs a merch person or anybody, who needs this. And I just kept talking to a lot of people. And I was also meeting a lot of tour managers, and I think watching different tour managers work was very solidifying. My job, I say it often, I think someone said this before me, or I've heard this before, but it sort of stuck in my brain that it's show, shelter, and food. Food, show, shelter. So I just get the dates for the tour from the agent, and then here's around what our budget is for stuff and how do we accomplish it. So at the very beginning of getting the dates for the tour, you sort of make all these decisions about how it's gonna happen logistically, both in transportation and crew. Touring is very expensive, so a big part of my job is how tight can we keep this, crew-wise and also budget-wise. And so once we have our decisions about the way the tour is going to happen, we go into advancing, which is reaching out to all of the venues individually. Then I create a grid that has every single date and what the venue has, what it doesn't have, what our day is going to look like. And once the tour is advanced, it all goes into master tour, which is our back-end software situation. And so once everything's in master tour and we have the show advance and we have all transportation and people booked, then we go on the tour. And honestly, going on the tour is probably the least stressful part if you do it right. I would say my day-to-day when I'm on tour, actual show day, what I do is I try to wake up before everybody else. For van touring, I wake up, I check my email, I reach out to the venue, and then we'll drive to the venue. We'll make sure everybody gets breakfast, coffee. We go to the venue, meet the production manager, venue manager, whoever is our point person. Then we all load in, check to make sure our rider stuff is there. After that, it's just sort of problem solving and making sure the show happens. You're just sort of the point person and you're making sure things happen. So when the actual tour kicks off, I think that's where it's fun. Because it's okay, if I did this right, if I plan this right, if I advance this right, then there'll be no stress. And most of the time it does happen that way, but there are crazy stuff. We hit a bore in Alabama, and that's a whole thing. From the get-go, meeting Samia and meeting the guys in the band, I was very honest about my experience and what I wanted to do and what I wanted us to be as a touring party and the level of professionalism. And I think when you're very upfront from the very beginning with everybody, and they're upfront with me too, they're here's what we need, here's what we can't do without, it just makes everything a lot easier because you have a baseline understanding that you respect each other, and that's made all the difference. As far as how I develop my flow or my workflow as a TM, it really is just getting to know the band and just understanding everybody's roles. We all understand each other's roles really well. So I know when to not bother them and they know when to not bother me, and it makes the world of a difference. Working with Samia has informed working with Michelle so much for me, because there's a lot of things that took me a while to pick up on with Samia that I could just like instantly implement with Michelle in terms of like communication, the way things are organized, and like what they can expect from me. Communication is just like the main thing, I think, for touring. It's cool to work with different types of artists and in different roles. I'm also a production assistant for Brittany Howard, which is like very large scale. And so that's really cool because I get to work for TM Emily Bragg, who is a pro. Like, she's so good at her job. And I just get to like be a helper bee. She has a list for me that she's like, this is everything you're responsible for. This is everything I'm responsible for. And together, this is what we accomplish. Like, it's so empowering to work for a woman like that who is genuinely kind and genuinely so caring. And I can take the way she's operating Brittany Howard to how I want to operate for Samia. And especially like in this industry, there aren't a lot of women. There's a lot more, I think, now than when I was first starting to get into it. But I noticed very quickly that there were two kinds of female TMs. There was either ones that were very burnt from this industry and just had to be a bitch. And like they had to be like, I'm in charge. This is my shit. I have to build this really tough exterior to get stuff done. And then I thought that there were TMs that were just like there for the hang, and I couldn't really like resonate super well with either one. And I think Emily really brings it together like so well, where she's just like so inviting and cool and like caring, but also very firm, and I really look up to her. But it's cool to work in different roles, and everything I do actively forms the tour manager I want to be.